When these school photos resurfaced online, no one expected them to spark fear. But something is wrong. Faces appear where they shouldn't. Eyes stare into the dark, and an image that has never been explained. Here are the most disturbing photos taken at a Japanese school, and the secrets they may reveal.
Number 13. Ponytail prohibitions based on male arousal concerns. Female students in numerous Japanese schools face hair restrictions so absurd they border on medieval thinking about women's bodies and male self-control. School administrators justify ponytail bans by claiming that exposed neck napes that excite male students, placing responsibility for boys' behavior entirely on girls' appearance choices. The 2020 survey revealing that approximately 1 in 10 schools in Fukuoka Prefecture enforce ponytail prohibitions demonstrates how widespread these discriminatory policies have become. These regulations form part of broader Burakyu Kisokyu that micromanage student appearance in ways that would trigger lawsuits in most developed nations. The underlying assumption that teenage boys cannot control themselves around female neck exposure reveals deeply problematic attitudes about gender, sexuality, and personal responsibility. Female students must modify their natural grooming preferences to accommodate supposed male weaknesses, teaching harmful lessons about gender dynamics and victim blaming. The policies ignore scientific evidence about adolescent development and instead reinforce outdated stereotypes about uncontrollable male sexuality and dangerous female bodies. Public criticism of these rules has intensified as parents and activists recognize their discriminatory nature and psychological harm to female students.
Number 12. Collective punishment systems. Individual misbehavior triggers collective punishment that holds entire classes responsible for single student actions, creating social pressure systems that eliminate personal accountability while generating peer-based behavior control. Teachers punish whole classes when individual students violate rules, establishing group dynamics where student behavior becomes community responsibility rather than personal choice and consequence. The psychological manipulation involved in collective punishment creates anxiety and social pressure that forces students to monitor and control each other's behavior to avoid group consequences. Students learn to suppress individual expression and conform to group expectations because personal choices affect classmates who will face punishment for others' decisions and actions. The cultural emphasis on group harmony and collective responsibility justifies punishment systems that international human rights standards would recognize as psychologically manipulative and educationally counterproductive. Class unity becomes forced conformity when students must choose between individual expression and protecting classmates from collective punishment for their personal choices and behavior. The elimination of individual accountability through group punishment prevents students from learning personal responsibility and understand the direct consequences of their own actions and decisions. Social ostracism develops when individual students become identified as sources of collective punishment, creating bullying dynamics that schools inadvertently encourage through their discipline policies. Teachers use collective punishment as classroom management tools that simplify discipline while avoiding the efforts required to address individual behavior issues and their underlying causes.
I have a question for you. First, I would like to say that it is possible to follow the greatest curiosities of our world every day. But to do so, you need to be subscribed to our channel. So, are you already subscribed? If not, take the opportunity to subscribe now. Also, take the opportunity to like the video so YouTube will recommend more videos from our channel. So leave your like right now. And now that you have done that, let's go!
Number 11. Mandatory swimming education and pool construction requirements. Swimming instruction became mandatory across Japanese schools following tragic water accidents in 1955, transforming curriculum requirements and forcing massive infrastructure investments in educational facilities. The Shiunamaru incident and Kyoku Junior High School water accident created national trauma that drove policy changes requiring all students to learn swimming and water safety regardless of individual interest or ability. Approximately 75% of elementary and junior high schools built swimming pools on their premises to facilitate mandatory swim lessons, representing enormous financial investments in single-purpose educational facilities. The curriculum revision of 1968 institutionalized swimming education as a core component of physical education classes, ensuring that every student must participate at water-based activities throughout their school years. Surveys indicate swimming ranks among the top extracurricular choices for children aged 4 to 11, suggesting that mandatory instruction creates lifelong interest in aquatic activities and water safety awareness. The infrastructure requirements for school swimming pools create ongoing maintenance costs and facility management challenges that strain educational budgets and administrative resources. Weather-dependent swimming lessons for schools to maintain expensive indoor facilities or limit instruction to specific seasons, creating scheduling complications and curriculum planning difficulties.
Number 10. Complete prohibition of romantic relationships in schools. Romance in Japanese schools isn't just discouraged, it's completely forbidden, with consequences that can destroy a student's educational future. The enforcement of these anti-dating policies reaches shocking extremes, with schools conducting investigations that would make intelligence agencies proud. Horikoshi School in Tokyo became infamous when a third-year female student faced forced withdrawal after admitting to a romantic relationship, leading to a legal battle that exposed the brutal reality of these rules. The 2019 court case revealed how schools systematically destroy students' lives over natural teenage emotions, though the Tokyo District Court ultimately supported the school's right to ban dating entirely. Statistical evidence shows the devastating impact of these policies, with surveys revealing that only 22.8% of high school boys and 25.7% of high school girls have ever kissed someone, the lowest rates since data collection began in 1974. Schools employ various surveillance methods to catch romantic relationships, including monitoring of different interactions, interrogating classmates, and even tracking social media activity.
Number 9. Student cleaning duties. Students perform daily cleaning duties that transform educational institutions into labor camps, where children maintain adult facilities through unpaid work assignments. The practice, called osoji, requires students to spend 15 minutes daily cleaning classrooms, hallways, and common areas as part of their educational experience rather than as voluntary service learning. This mandatory cleaning system begins in first grade and continues through high school, ensuring that students spend thousands of hours performing custodial work throughout their educational careers. The cultural justification centers on teaching responsibility, teamwork, and respect for shared spaces, while ignoring the fact that students are providing free labor that reduces school operating costs. Adult custodial staff positions become unnecessary when students perform cleaning duties, creating cost savings for educational institutions while requiring unpaid labor from children and adolescents. Students learn to use brooms, mops, and cleaning supplies as part of their educational curriculum, spending time on facility maintenance that could be devoted to academic instruction or personal development. The cleaning requirements create hierarchical systems where older students supervise younger ones in janitorial tasks, establishing power dynamics based on custodial work rather than academic achievement or leadership skills.
Number 8. Sasamata weapons for school security. Japanese schools maintain medieval weapons called sasamata for defending against intruders, revealing security preparations that would shock parents in most countries where armed school staff raises serious concerns. The sasamata, originally used by samurai police in feudal Japan, features 2 prongs at the end of a 2-meter stick designed to capture and control suspects without causing lethal injuries. Historical usage of sasamata by samurai police for crowd control and criminal arrest demonstrates the weapon's effectiveness in subduing dangerous individuals while minimizing fatalities. The modern aluminum version lacks the sharp blades and spikes of traditional designs, but maintains the basic fork-spear structure that allows users to pin and control threatening individuals.
School staff received training and saw some how to use it despite lacking law enforcement background or experience in managing violent confrontations with potentially dangerous intruders. The psychological impact on students who attend schools equipped with medieval weapons creates awareness of potential violence that contradicts the safe learning environment schools claim to provide. Parent support saw simulated deployment in schools while potentially remaining unaware of the weapons training their children witnessed and the security threats these preparations acknowledge.
Number 7. Automatic grade promotion. Japanese elementary and junior high schools operate under a system that would shock parents worldwide. Students advance to the next grade automatically, no matter how poorly they perform academically. This nationwide policy eliminates the possibility of grade repetition entirely, creating a bizarre educational landscape where failing every test still guarantees progression. The system strips away the traditional consequences of poor academic performance, yet somehow maintains Japan's reputation for educational excellence. Regional differences don't exist in this policy, from Hokkaido's snow-covered classrooms to Okinawa's tropical schools. Every student moves forward regardless of comprehension levels. The psychological impact on students creates a unique dynamic where internal motivation must replace external academic pressure. Teachers face the challenge of maintaining educational standards while knowing they cannot use grade retention as a disciplinary tool. Parents experience confusion when their struggling children advance alongside high achievers, creating family dynamics unlike anywhere else in the world. High school entrance examinations become the first real academic filter, making these tests incredibly high stakes after years of automatic advancements.
Number 6. Mandatory school uniforms. School uniform requirements in Japan reach levels of control that would make military institutions envious, with approximately 90% of public elementary and junior high schools mandating identical clothing for all students. Public high schools enforce uniform policies at 80% of institutions, with 65% requiring daily compliance that eliminates any possibility of personal expression through clothing choices. The uniform standards extend far beyond basic clothing requirement, dictating specific colors, styles, and accessories that must conform to institutional specifications. Traditional designs deliberately reference naval and military aesthetics, with girls wearing sailor collar blouses and pleated skirts while boys don stand-up collar jackets reminiscent of military dress. Color restrictions limit options to navy blue, white, gray, light green, and black, ensuring visual uniformity that prioritizes institutional identity over individual preference. Enforcement mechanisms include daily inspections, disciplinary actions for violations, and social pressure that makes non-compliance nearly impossible for students to maintain.
Number 5. Extreme punctuality standards. Japanese punctuality expectations reach obsessive levels that transform minor lateness into moral failures with serious social and educational consequences. The infamous May 11, 2018 incident, where West Japan Railway Company issued official apologies for a train departing 25 seconds early, perfectly illustrates the extreme precision expected in all aspects of Japanese society. Students must arrive at school before official start times, with even single-minute delays generating disapproval from teachers and administrative staff who view lateness as character defects. The cultural commitment to punctuality extends throughout Japanese society, with the Totaga Shinkansen maintaining average delays of only 1.6 minutes per train despite handling massive passenger volumes daily. Business meetings, shop openings, and social gatherings operate with clockwork precision that allows no flexibility for human unpredictability or unexpected circumstances. Schools reinforce punctuality of sessions by treating minor lateness as disciplinary issues requiring correction through additional training and behavioral modification programs. Teachers model extreme time consciousness by arriving early, starting lessons precisely on schedule, and ending activities at predetermined moments regardless of educational flow or student engagement.
The psychological pressure created by impossible punctuality standards affects student mental health and creates anxiety about time management that persists throughout their adult lives.
Number 4. Homemade lunch prohibition and forced nutritional control. Students can't bring lunch from home. Period. This isn't about safety or allergies. Japanese schools completely control what kids eat, when they eat it, and how they eat it through mandatory school-provided meals that eliminate family food choices entirely. Every single student consumes identical portions calculated by certified nutritionists who determine caloric intake down to the exact number between 600 and 700 calories per meal. The Shokiku system transforms mealtime into educational indoctrination about government-approved nutrition standards, rather than allowing families to feed their children according to personal preferences or cultural traditions. Seasonal and locally sourced ingredients sound healthy until you realize this means students have zero choice in their daily nutrition, creating institutional dependency that extends into the most basic human need, food. Each lunch contains predetermined portions of rice or bread, fish or meat, vegetables, soup, and milk, without considering individual dietary needs, allergies that schools might not recognize, or simple personal preferences that make eating enjoyable. Processed and frozen foods are banned, not for health reasons, but for control. Schools want to manage every aspect of food preparation and consumption to maintain their educational authority over student bodies. The cost seems reasonable at $2.50 for elementary students and $2.50 from junior high students, but this government subsidy creates dependency on institutional feeding rather than teaching students about food independence and family meal traditions.
Number 3. Natural hair color documentation. Schools demand proof that students' natural hair color is actually natural, creating a surveillance system around genetic traits that students cannot control. If your hair isn't naturally black, you need official documentation from parents confirming your genetic authenticity, as if hair color requires legal verification in an educational setting. The 2017 case of a female student forced to dye her naturally brown hair black reveals the psychological torture schools inflict on students whose genetics don't match institutional preferences. This student initially complied with forced hair dyeing, but later stopped, triggering retaliation that included removing her desk, erasing her name from class rosters, and conducting invasive hair root inspections to verify natural growth patterns. School administrators literally examined this student's scalp to determine whether her hair color violated their arbitrary standards for acceptable human genetics. The legal system supported this genetic discrimination when courts ruled that schools have the right to enforce hair color regulations, prioritizing institutional control over basic human dignity and genetic diversity. The $3,100 compensation awarded to the psychologically damaged student represents a token payment that acknowledges harm while maintaining the school's right to continue discriminatory practices against future students.
Number 2. Two-block haircut prohibition. Specific hairstyles face institutional bans that demonstrate how deeply schools control student appearance and cultural expression through arbitrary aesthetic judgments. The two-block haircut, featuring short sides and back with longer hair on top, was prohibited by Tokyo Metropolitan Board of Education until April 2022, treating popular styling choices as threats to educational discipline. School administrators justified haircut bans by citing concerns about disruption and discipline, as if hair length could somehow interfere with learning processes or classroom management. The policy change, allowing greater freedom in student hairstyles, represents recent progress while highlighting decades of unnecessary restrictions on harmless personal grooming choices. Individual schools maintain authority to establish their own haircut requirements, creating inconsistent standards that vary by institution and administrative preferences rather than educational necessity.
Students faced disciplinary actions for hairstyle violations that had no impact on academic performance, classroom behavior, or school safety, revealing the arbitrary nature of appearance-based rules. The psychological impact of haircut restrictions affects student self-image and personal identity during adolescent years when experimenting with appearance forms a crucial aspect of identity development. Cultural trends in hairstyling become forbidden territory for students who must choose between following fashion and avoiding school punishment for aesthetic choices.
Number 1. Shoe removal protocols. Students must remove outdoor shoes and change into designated indoor footwear upon entering school buildings, creating daily rituals to emphasize cleanliness while complicating basic movement and emergency evacuation procedures. The practice extends beyond cultural norms about home cleanliness into institutional requirements that treat school buildings as sacred spaces, requiring special footwear protocols. Uwabaki lightweight indoor shoes become mandatory equipment for all students who must purchase, maintain, and store specialized footwear exclusively for school use. The Jenkin entryway areas function as shoe storage and changing zones, where students must perform daily shoe changing routines under time pressure and social observation. Assigned shoe lockers create additional organizational requirements and potential security issues when students must store valuable footwear in these shared facilities with limited supervision. The daily shoe changing routine consumes educational time that could be devoted to instruction while creating bottlenecks during arrival and dismissal periods when hundreds of students simultaneously change footwear. Emergency evacuation procedures become complicated when students must either flee in indoor shoes unsuitable for outdoor terrain or waste precious time changing into outdoor footwear during crisis situations. The cost burden of purchasing both indoor and outdoor school shoes creates additional financial pressure for families already managing extensive educational expenses and uniform requirements.
Now I have a special recommendation for you. Are you seeing this video that is appearing on the screen? Click on it because I'm sure you'll like it. Well, that's it. And until next time, Curious One.